Hello, my name is Sandra Jones-Keller. I'm an intuitive pregnancy coach, spiritual energy healer, and author of 21 Lessons to Empower the New Age Kid and Intuitive Communication with Your Baby Soul. And this is my husband, Thomas Keller.
Hello.
So we're here today because someone asked me a very interesting question that I've actually been thinking about for the last couple of days. And you and I talked about it a little bit, and I thought if one person was thinking this, then probably a lot of you are thinking this. So we just wanted to talk about it for a couple minutes on camera. And I'm going to paraphrase the question, but it was something like this. Okay, I don't get it. You had intuitive two-way communication with your daughter before she was born, and now she's 12 years old and she's just like a normal 12-year-old kid. So what's the point of all of that? So I have my take on it. And what I realized, though, that anyone who's had this kind of communication will have a different experience. So this is just our experience with it.
That's right.
So why don't you jump in?
Okay.
Because you had some thoughts about it.
Well, let me explain why I feel it's so important to have the experience of having a two-way communication. Because when my wife was pregnant, what I realized in this communication that was going on between the two of them was that this person, my daughter who was going to be born, was much more than just a one lifetime child. She had been here before, and she was coming here with a purpose in mind, a very specific purpose that was unique to her. And so that's where I realized that she's much more than just a little baby or an infant. This was in essence, a spiritual master that had a path of her own to follow.
Wait, now, but you also had communication with her. It wasn't the same as mine, so you also had experiences with her while I was pregnant.
That's right. I did have a couple of brief experiences with her. One of them in particular was while I was doing a breathing exercise in the King's Chamber in the Great Pyramid in Egypt. But mine were not talking communication. Mine was just an awareness that this was her in my presence at that moment.
Yeah.
And then she would go back to wherever she'd gone.
Yeah. And so my experience was very awe-inspiring, actually, and it wasn't anything that I had planned. And it came about because we were in Las Vegas at one of the conferences, and we had been there for a couple of days, and he had checked us out of our room, and we were going to spend the night with his friend in his room. And I was pregnant and very uncomfortable, and I didn't want to spend the night. So I said, well, I'm going home. And Thomas, being who he is, says, well, did you ask the baby what she wanted to do? And I was like, well, what do you mean? He's like, well, did you ask the baby what she wanted to do? And I was like, well, why would I do that? And so I thought I would humor him. So I went into meditation. And I don't think we had her name at that time, did we?
No.
I don't think we had her name. And so I tuned in and I connected with Mecca. And I said, do you want to go home with me or do you want to stay in Vegas with Daddy? And I heard a very clear voice in my head that said, I want to stay here with Daddy. And I knew it was her voice because, one, I had my own agenda. I wanted to go home, so I thought she would agree with me. And two, she said, my daddy. So I knew it was her voice, and I knew I was communicating with my unborn daughter. And so I went back to you, and I said, okay, we're staying, with much attitude. So that was the beginning of the intuitive communication. And I had a high-risk pregnancy because of my age, and I had two large fibroid tumors, one at the base of my uterus. So, the prognosis for me was pretty dire. I would be bedridden for most of the pregnancy. Mecca would be born 3 months premature, and I would have a C-section. So I did have a C-section, but I worked part-time up until the weekend before she was born.
Because of the communication you had back and forth with her.
Exactly.
Where she told you repeatedly that she was fine during this high-risk pregnancy and that you should take care of yourself.
Exactly.
That's what gave you the confidence to continue on.
Exactly. So because of this communication, all the things that the doctors said were going to happen didn't happen, because literally each time I would go to the doctor and I would get this prognosis, I would go back, I would tune in with Mecca, check on her, and it was like, Mom, I'm fine, take care of yourself. So now the question was, how does that translate into her being a normal kid? Well, for me, it's a very important experience because, one, I know she's a spiritual being. And I was very clear that she was coming here with her own purpose, her own agenda for life. And I was here to guide her, to be a partner with her. She wasn't my possession. She wasn't coming here because I wanted to be a mother or anything like that. She was coming here to live her life purpose.
Right.
And so in communicating with her then and now, that awareness is always with me.
So how does that make it different today at 12 years old?
Well, at 12, it's like, well, I've done it through her whole life. Even when she was a baby, we would talk to her because I knew she understood. I would ask her questions like, do you like this or do you like that? Do you want this or that? Because I knew she understood because I had communicated with her before she was born. So how it translates now as a 12-year-old, I still tune in. Like, as a matter of fact, just the other day, you and I were out and it was raining. And I said, I'm going to go home because it's raining and I know she doesn't like the rain. And no sooner than I was driving home, 5 minutes later, she called me and asked me when I was coming home. Because intuitively, I felt it. So that's one way. So even when people ask if she can do something or if she asks if she can do something, I kind of feel inside to see if it's okay before, we answer, before we talk about it. Because there's still that kind of connection there. Also, I know that as a spiritual being, like, she's got her own posse with her. She's got her own guides, angels, or whatever you want to call them. So they're always with her, they're always protecting her, and they're always guiding her. So, that's what I find challenging as a mother. I want to keep her safe. I want to love her and protect her in this physical realm, but sometimes I just have to let go. Sometimes I have to trust.
Let's go back to the question that was at hand.
Okay.
So what is in essence what the woman was saying?
Well, so what?
So what if you had this communication with your child during the pregnancy? How does that impact you or me or the child's life now at 12 years old?
I think it impacts everything because first and foremost, I know and understand she's a spiritual being. I know that this life that she's living is not just about this physical life that she's doing. She's got a purpose that's all of her own that she's aware of. And she has even said that she knows that she's part of something bigger.
Right.
She feels it. She's aware of it. And when I have those kinds of conversations with her, it's a reminder to me, okay, trust. Trust in who she is, trust in her purpose, and trust in what you and I are doing as parents in partnering with her and guiding with her, not trying to control and not trying to figure out things for her, but, providing exposure for her and being the way showers.
So, and my response to the question, so what? And so now we have a 12-year-old daughter who might be having a bad day or something, and she could be all in her ego, just being bratty or whatever it is, but I know that that's just her ego or her personality speaking. That's not who she really is in her essence. So it's, for me, the benefit is I let things roll off my back a lot more. There's a lot less taking everything so seriously because I've already seen and experienced that she's a spiritual being. So all these personality waves and the evolution of her self as a human being, her body growing and all, that's just on the personality level. And there's a calmness and a confidence in me underneath all of that because I know there's a much bigger picture going on.
And that's what I would say for me as well. There's a level of security in knowing that she is a spiritual being and knowing that whatever is happening on some level is perfect. Because it's here for not only her growth and evolution, it's here for our growth and evolution. And as we keep doing our own work, then we all benefit from it.
Right. And there's one other point I want to make that I thought of earlier today. If this person can ask the question, so what? This information in 21 Lessons book may not be for them. Because everybody has different paths and a lot of people aren't ready for this information. and a lot of other people are already. So if you have any inclination to follow your intuition or had hints of communication, this probably could be for you. But there's a lot of people this is just not for. They're not ready for it, and that's perfectly fine too. So you don't have to. We don't have to have an answer to so what if the person's not ready to hear it.
That's true. Okay. Well, I think that's it for me. Please visit my website, sandrajoneskeller.com. I've got other videos on my website and on YouTube. So happy parenting, happy teaching, happy learning.